Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at CinemaBlend, back with another recap analysis video of the latest episode of WandaVision. This is episode number 4. It is called We Interrupt This Program for a very specific reason. I have to let you know that this video is going to be jam-packed with spoilers for episode number 4 of WandaVision. So if you haven't yet caught up with the latest episode of the show, back away right now. Go read some of our other WandaVision content on CinemaBlend. There's plenty of stuff that you can get into while you're waiting to catch up with the series. If you're watching us on YouTube, go down, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. I am doing analysis videos for every episode of WandaVision throughout the course of the season, and you want to make sure that you get to watch every single one of them as soon as they drop. Okay, let's get into what we learned through this new episode, which was the first one to break away from the traditional sitcom structure that we've been watching Wanda and Vision operate in, and so it's called We Interrupt This Program, which is, again, another sort of TV-themed title. All of the episodes up to this point have had a TV-themed title, and what this episode really worked as was just a let's press the pause button. Let's, as an audience, start to fill you in on a lot of the mysteries that you are asking questions about, such as who is Geraldine? Who is trying to contact Wanda from outside of the world that she's in? Why exactly is Wanda in this kind of world? Is Vision alive? Is he dead? What's the deal with the colored helicopter? How come some of the people in the sitcom scenario sometimes break character and don't really quite know what's going on? All of this is addressed in this episode, which takes us back to the start of S.W.O.R.D essentially figuring out what is going on in Westview. So we catch up with Monica Rambeau, and this is a truly phenomenal way. Like, it's worth pointing out that just no one is operating on a storytelling level the way that Marvel is able to do right now. Marvel Studios truly is so far ahead of everybody else in the game, and it's basically not fair because they've had so much time to lay out all of this groundwork so that they truly now have a living, breathing universe in which they can tell stories. And you don't bat an eye when they bring in a character or reference something that took place in one of the previous movies, because you're just familiar with it. You're along for the ride at this point. And this episode starts with Monica being a victim of the snap and phasing back in, and you just know it. Like, you know, like, it might take a second or two to sort of figure out like what exactly is going on here, but it was like, oh no, this is something different. And then you noticed everybody else sort of phasing back in, and you realize it was the snap. And we saw some of that done to comedic effect in Spider-Man Far From Home when the students just sort of returned to where they were in high school, but like the rest of the world had been existing for 5 years. Here we get a sort of tragic repercussion of Monica fading away in the snap when she was at her mom's hospital bed, and coming right back to the moment where she was, thinking that she was basically just asleep for this amount of time, but realizing that literally years have passed and that her mother, Maria Rambeau, has died of cancer. Now, this becomes really significant because Maria Rambeau and Monica we met in Captain Marvel. And Captain Marvel was set in the 1990s. And when Monica goes back to S.W.O.R.D, and there's a lot of conversation between her and the higher-ups at S.W.O.R.D of saying, like, it's weird that you were gone with everybody else. We're glad you're back, but there's been a lot of changes going on here at S.W.O.R.D especially. There were people who were part of an astronaut program. Oh, could we get into the Fantastic Four through that? I wonder if S.W.O.R.D and their astronaut program is how they're going to bring in the Fantastic Four. That would make some sense. Anyway, Monica clearly was part of S.W.O.R.D, and Maria was clearly very part of S.W.O.R.D, because we were told that like the work that the Rambeaus were doing with S.W.O.R.D to build it back up was significant, and they're thrilled to have Monica back on the ground working. But Monica can't go back to her interstellar missions because her mom sort of built in like, hey, if she ever comes back, we're going to ground her for a little while, which is fine. But then you think about just the long-term planning of what Marvel has been doing. Like, now to me, it makes sense why Captain Marvel was set in the 1990s. When you think about it in the long-term phase of what the MCU is trying to do, and if you put Maria Rambeau meeting with Nick Fury and learning about S.H.I.E.L.D. in the 1990s, then it makes sense that you trace the timeline that she would then become, because she knows that Carol is up in space, and she has some experience with going up to space, why she would become integral to helping to build S.W.O.R.D, which again solidifies that I'm fairly certain that Nick Fury in the Far From Home end credits, that's where he is. He's on a S.W.O.R.D base that's sort of floating around when they showed him at the very end after he gets up from his vacation and he's walking around. You see a larger base happening, and I'm pretty sure that that's S.W.O.R.D. So S.W.O.R.D gets recruited to work with the FBI, and that's where we catch up with Jimmy Woo at that point. And it's fun to see, again, Randall Park come back and play that character who is familiar from the Ant-Man franchise. And this is just Marvel being able to pluck from their film franchises and say, no, we're going to move these characters over here. Darcy, of course, played by Kat Dennings, who becomes an integral character who also is recruited by S.W.O.R.D. And it's easy for Marvel at this point because they have built out this universe of characters who we just know are existing to say, yeah, we need someone who's going to be coming in and bring their expertise. So let's bring over the FBI agent from the Ant-Man franchise and an astrophysicist from the Thor franchise. And now we need them here. So this becomes the episode where everybody else, and then through everybody else, us, becomes aware of the fact that the theory that all of this is created by Wanda gets solidified. Wanda, it seems, has taken a town of Eastview in New Jersey and turned it into Westview. There's a couple of fun theories as to why that might be the case, like why it's called Westview. First and foremost, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige was from the town of Westfield, New Jersey, and went to Westfield, New Jersey High School. So it's very possible this is just a nod to Kevin Feige's hometown and where he grew up. When I heard Westview, I kind of thought of maybe a West Coast Avengers type thing. Like there was a town called Eastview. Wanda turns it into Westview, and maybe we're thinking about moving everything back out west. Maybe they just like the town Westview. But over the course of figuring this out, Darcy is the one who understands that after analyzing all of the energies that were surrounding the town, that there is a television frequency almost that she can plug into using an outdated TV. And she's the one that essentially figures out that if I tap into this using this old television set, that I can essentially watch what Wanda is building. Now, the agents for both S.W.O.R.D and the FBI can't quite figure out what it is that they're building, but they get into paying attention to the drama that Wanda is creating in a Truman Show kind of way. And I've heard that the first 3 episodes of this show being described as Truman Show-esque, especially when they showed someone from S.W.O.R.D, watching the episode conclude. But then they also, the way that we kind of were doing over the first 3 episodes, would get to a point where they say like, oh, the narration changed, or hey, there's a glitch. Geraldine was there for a minute and now she's gone. Where did Geraldine go? And they're thinking of them as characters in a show, while also remembering that, like, oh yeah, that's right, we're trying to find Monica Rambeau. Like, where did she disappear to? Where did Captain Rambeau disappear to? And that's significant that she is that high up the food chain at S.W.O.R.D. We also learn the origin of the S.W.O.R.D helicopter. They are drones that were being sent in to sort of explore this energy field that Wanda has set up. We learn about how the beekeeper got in there, and it truly was just a S.W.O.R.D agent who was trying to burrow underground and got to a point where after he went through a tunnel, he ends up, through and into the experiment that Wanda has created. It's confirmed that it's absolutely Wanda. And then the S.W.O.R.D people start to determine that characters in the sitcom narratives are people from Eastview or Westview or people from New Jersey, regular people who are playing characters in the parts right now. You see the people who played the Hearts in the first episode are identified. The guys who were at the Safety Council meeting in episode 2 are identified as people from New Jersey. And I'm fairly certain, even though there were a number of names that were rattled off, that Agnes, played by Kathryn Hahn, has not been associated with somebody from a real person from New Jersey who's on the outside. And I think that could be really significant because I think that Kathryn Hahn, I'm still holding on to the fact that I think Kathryn Hahn's Agnes is participating in this somehow. But this episode kind of solidifies the fact that for now, it doesn't seem like Kathryn Hahn is the one pulling the strings, that it's all very much Wanda. And that's a big question that we had about, like, because when they phrased the voice coming over the radio microphone, Jimmy Woo's voice coming over the microphone, and he was saying, Wanda, who is doing this to you? We learned the origin of him trying to transmit into, because it was Kat Dennings who came up with the idea of like, hey, there's a radio there, and if we tap into the frequency, you might be able to talk to Wanda. And he does. And when he communicates with her, he almost pulls her out of the of the simulation that she has created. Like, even she can get pulled out of the simulation slightly. And it also happens when Geraldine or Monica mentions Ultron. The mention of something from the from the actual reality pulls Wanda out of her alternate reality long enough for her to realize that the system that she has set up is being threatened by the outsiders who want to get in and get to her, and she does not want to be taken out of this, it seems, very clearly, because she gets rid of the beekeeper, she gets rid of Geraldine once Geraldine seems to be a bit of a threat. And I think the last bit of dialogue that's uttered by Monica Rambeau is,
"It's all Wanda."
And that Wanda is, see, I'm hesitant to use the term villain because I don't think that she's like the villain here. But now the question is going to become, to what lengths is Wanda going to maintain this alternate reality, and what is she doing for it? And I think it comes down to this is a reaction to Vision's death. This is the repercussions that have come from her dealing with her grief at the loss of Vision. And we got the stunning, to me, I was shocked to see it, dead Vision corpse with the Mind Stone pulled out of his forehead, which again is that's Wanda recollecting ever so briefly and breaking through the construct that she's built here of, that's right, I have to, like, Vision is not Vision, like Vision is dead, but she gets a quick reminder of it, and it's harsh. It's like a gut punch when you see it. Like, you don't want to see her going through this. At the same time, you don't want to see her necessarily putting herself through a deception, which the whole thing is a deception. But that shot of dead Vision with his forehead caved in was shocking. I'm confused slightly at this stage of the game why other Avengers aren't wondering where Wanda is, or how she has avoided them for this amount of time, that they don't realize that she has created this thing. Because the first thing that happens when they tap into the television and Darcy is looking at a sitcom that Wanda has created, like, everyone's sort of confused. Is like, this is a sitcom with Avengers? So where are the other Avengers? Like, I kind of do want to know that. But that should means that there's more answers that have to come from this. And so there was a little video tease that came out that talked about what might be coming for the rest of the season. I don't want to get into that here, but I advise you to go watch it right now. We have it on CinemaBlend, and it teases out a couple of things that are going to be coming in, including a few more of the decades that we're going to be getting through, 80s, 90s, one that looks like a Modern Family type riff, and some teases about the structure of the bubble. That's all I'll say. But this is the halfway point of the season. It was a great time for the show, the narrative of the show, to sort of stop, to say, okay, there's a lot of speculation going on about what's happening here. Let's confirm as much as we can, and then hopefully hit the ground running when we get to episode 5. To make sure that you do not miss the analysis video that we're going to be doing for episode 5, make sure that you keep it right here on CinemaBlend. If you're on the YouTube channel, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, head to the comments section down below. Let me know what you thought about episode 4 of WandaVision and what you're thinking about the mystery of the show so far. I want to hear from all of you guys, because the MCU is back and stronger than ever, and I'm thrilled by everything we're seeing from this Disney Plus series so far.